What is going on, everybody? How you all doing? Hello, hello, hello. Man, my hair's a little messy right now. What is going on? You guys doing okay? Yeah? Uh, 1 second here, 1 second. Uh, all right. All right. Okay, all right, all right. All right, you all doing good? Just dotting some T's and whatever those things. Just doing some last minute housekeeping stuff. All right. Uh, yeah. I feel like we've had too many break weeks as of late. I feel like we've had too many break weeks. So, I'm kind of. I know that it's only been a week since the last chapter, but it feels like it's been longer. You know what I mean? It feels like it's been a while. So I'm kind of itching for us to get some new stuff. You know. I'm trying to fix. So you guys don't understand this part of it, but first let's get the stream likes up to 50. But YouTube changed their UI. I've been complaining about this. They changed their UI for streaming to make it very not, in my opinion, not streamer friendly. It actually kind of sucks, in my opinion. I don't know why they did this. I think this is terrible. I wish you guys could see what it looks like from my end. Anyway, don't need to complain about that. GTA 6 is coming soon. Detective Pikachu. I don't even know what people are talking about right now. Would you use these break weeks for the Wano analysis? Don't worry. I'm working on that. Too many break weeks? Isn't that what you want to finish certain projects? Okay, all right. I didn't work on the Wano analysis this break week, okay? I didn't. There's a video that should be coming out tomorrow, so I actually did an additional video for this week, because normally I don't do those. So this is like, well, here's the tricky thing. The video coming out tomorrow is the scheduled plan, but we have a sponsor for this video, and there was some issue in communication, I'll just say, and that means that if they don't approve the sponsor segment in a timely fashion soon, then that video needs to be bumped, and I don't even know when we bump it to at that point. So let's see. Kurakami Najimi says Wano analysis is at 50% and has been for a year. I think it's over that, unless you count the actual editing process, in which case that hasn't started at all yet. The LBAF analysis is coming out before the Wano analysis at this point. There's no way that happens. Although that's what I said about the Egghead analysis, and then that did happen. Omarua, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 7 months, man. Morge, do you think the delay in your Wano analysis has to do with your overall disappointment in the arc, aka you lack motivation? It's multiple things. Yeah, okay, so it's two things. It's one when Wano first ended, I was highly motivated to finish the Wano analysis. But then as more time has what do you call? Lots of times when I have like an analysis video, right? I feel generally very positive about it, right? So, I wanted to get out all my thoughts on Egghead because I had so many good things to say about it, right? Same with most of the arc analyses I've done that have been, some of my more successful videos on the channel, like the Marine Ford, Enies Lobby, Whole Cake Island. Whole Cake Island was my first big analysis, right? It's because I thought the arc was underrated when I think a lot of people had negative feelings about it towards the end, right? So, but I wanted to say the good things that I saw in the arc, so I felt passionate about wanting to get that out there. Same thing with Marine Ford, Enies Lobby. Obviously, those weren't arcs. The arcs hadn't just ended, right? The arcs hadn't just ended, but they were my favorite arcs in the story, and I think they're One Piece's best arcs, in my opinion. So, I wanted to get out some. I felt passionate making the videos on this. I think it always feels better when you're working on something that you feel passionate about. I felt passionate about Wano after it ended in a negative way, in that I got so many things that I want to get off about this arc, and I see so many blah blah blah. I want to really break down why this narratively was poor, why this thematically was poor, while this plot structure was totally missing, no tension, yada yada, Yamato, characters, all of that. I wanted to just go into all of that, and I did. But over time, two things happened. One, I started enjoying One Piece a lot more again, right? And two, I got more and more distance from the Wano arc. So now it feels like I don't feel passionate about going back into it and like breaking down negative points. Funnily enough, all of the positive things about Wano, I've already covered in the analysis. So that section is actually done because I started with that first. Because first I did a reread of the arc. And then when I'm doing the reread, I'm trying to pick up like, okay, all of the themes and ideas that are being communicated and what did Oda actually do well. So I start with that, and then the latter parts of the video are basically all the things I don't like, right? So I've actually already covered all of the things that I feel were good about the arc, right? So then all of the things that I feel were not as good are mostly done, but I haven't finished it, okay? I just don't feel like, I feel very little motivation to want to, because you need to be driven by negative motivation at that point. Like negative, I guess, negative passion. And I don't have that in me as much because it's been so long since the Wano arc. So the more time that has passed since the arc ended, it's become less about my own personal desire to finish it. Now I have very little personal desire to finish it, and it's more just like I want to check off that task for the viewers, right? So it's more so for you guys at this point because I promised it for so long. So I do want to finish it because I promised I would finish it, and that's a thing. But I'm naturally less driven to take time out of my day to make sure I do that. I do have a new schedule to try and get it done because I do want it off my chest, off my neck, the albatross, whatever, by the end of this year. So that's the update. The last thing I'd say is that also after Wano ended, I know that it was a lot of mixed reception. Some people staunchly defended it. Some people didn't like it as much. I wanted to get my thoughts out there at that point because I wanted to tackle a lot of the things that I thought were not that good about the arc. But then what I noticed over time is that I think nowadays, generally speaking, I think maybe it's just my own biased perceptions, but I think that there's generally more negative sentiment towards Wano. Not like negative, but I feel like I don't see that many people talking up the arc. I think because Oda's had such good writing post Wano, I think it's illustrated a little bit more for a lot of people where Wano wasn't as strong. So now it's also like there's a ton of talking points I have about the arc that delve into it in a much deeper manner. But at the same time, I no longer feel like I'm going to be trying to put out the video to try and sway public opinion to any degree or anything like that. Because I think public opinion on Wano has already been sliding towards more of the negative. That might be my flawed perception, but that's kind of what I've seen. I think when I put out the video, it goes into a shit ton of things and puts things in a ton of perspective that would make people feel extremely validated in all of their feelings towards Wano and break down a million different ways in which the arc is like definitely narratively failing in certain categories that One Piece normally excels in. So I think I can add a lot of depth and nuance to that discussion, but I also no longer feel like I would be having to fight some sort of uphill battle of trying to convince people that, the arc maybe wasn't the best One Piece arc ever or something like that. So, there's a variety of factors as to why I'm not as excited about the Wano analysis as I initially was, It's just harder to feel passionate about writing something for the sake of critiquing it, I think, I generally feel more passionate, truly, about, like, when I get to write things positive about One Piece or things that I really enjoyed. A similar example is, like, so when the Saul was revealed to be alive and all that stuff? Right away, I felt lots of intense negative emotion towards that. And I was like, I need to break down the issues with this, right? So right away, I wanted to put out my videos on that, or my video on that, right? I felt passion, right? Let's pretend I didn't put out that video. If I didn't put out that video, then now I guess a year or so removed from that incident, right? Now at this point in time, I wouldn't feel like putting out a video breaking down why Saul's death being revoked, right, is a bad thing. Not because I don't still think it's like a terrible writing decision, right? I still do, but I just feel less passionate about it than I did when it was first revealed. Now it's just like, well, I got a lot of negative emotions about that, or I had a lot of negative emotions about that, and I still think it's really, really fucking bad, but I no longer feel like, this pisses me off, I gotta get my thoughts out about it, you know? I think generally speaking, the things that you really love are things that you will always want to revisit and talk about again, whereas things that upset you or make you, I guess upset is the wrong word, things that you dislike or things that you're unhappy with, right? Those can often be more fleeting, and as time goes on, you care less about revisiting them. Does that make sense? Like, again, Water 7, Enies Lobby, Marine Ford, those are very old arcs, but I still felt like going back to write really long analyses about them because I think they're the best One Piece arcs, right? So I'll always feel like going back to talk about things that I really, really like. I don't feel as motivated to go back to talk about things that I don't enjoy. I wonder if that's just human nature, or is that maybe... Oh, that's good. Yeah. Human nature, or is that just a me thing, or is everybody like that? Maybe everybody's like that. Okay. Jaren's Rambo, thanks for the 2. Do you think Dofi will break out and go where? The tricky thing with Doflamingo is that I think there's only 2. So Doflamingo, it's a little difficult because, like, he went down very recently. Generally, when Oda's brought back villains from past arcs, it's after an extended period of time. There's exceptions. I guess Buggy came back within like 80 chapters, 90 chapters, or whatever. But Buggy was such a minor villain, it was like whatever, like it's like a gag villain at that point. But you know, like Crocodile, it's a long time before Crocodile comes back. Oh, actually, you know what? Time-wise, it's been about the same amount of time, right? Alabasta, like chapter 200. Crocodile came back after 300 chapters. Doflamingo, yeah, actually time flies. Shit, it wouldn't even be that long. Yeah, I guess Doflamingo could come back. Doflamingo could come back. The tricky thing with Doflamingo is I don't know what... Because I think lots of times when Oda brings back past villains, it's either plot purposes, right? Like, he's got a plot in mind for them that can go somewhere. So, for example... Buggy's whole plot line turned out to become really, really big. Crocodile, right? It seems like Moria with him being a Kazuki, stuff like that can go there. Stuff like that. Or I think sometimes he'll bring back past villains if you want to see, you know, how much stronger, like if Oda's made them stronger or something like that since before, like Lucci or something like that. Obviously, Caesar became a recurring character because of plot purposes, right? I think the tricky thing with Doflamingo is that it's unlikely he became stronger, right? I think Doflamingo is probably about as strong as he's supposed to be. So it's unlikely he became stronger. And then plot-wise, I think a lot of his plot role basically ended because he was already a major figure in the grand One Piece conflict, you know, the geopolitical conflict of One Piece or whatever, right? So I don't know what his role would be. I feel like if Doflamingo is to be brought back, one thing I've speculated is that he could be brought back as a God's Knight, because the God's Knights, it seems like they're down to recruit people. You know, they're down to recruit plenty of characters. They fucking offered Loki an offer. They're down to recruit. I think they're going to lose some God's Knights by the end of Elbaf, because I think some are going to be permanently defeated here. They're going to need more God's Knights to fill the spots. They're already in a grand draft process for that. Doflamingo is already a fucking Celestial Dragon who is probably, you know, God's Knight's level, right? He's not like Gunko level strong or something, I don't think. But he should probably make the bar for God's Night. So I think he could be brought back in that capacity. But what I would like to see is if Doflamingo is brought back, it's to do something for his own personal character. Like maybe he betrays the Celestial Dragons because he fucking hates them, and he does something that ushers in their demise. Like maybe he gives the protagonist some sort of an insight or an in or something like that. So I think that would be good. I think Doflamingo breaking out and then just joining Cross Guild, I don't know about that. I don't think that really makes sense. I think he's also just too shitty to be in Cross Guild, personally. Let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick, because we're almost there. I don't think I genuinely don't think he fits in Cross Guild. I also don't think Doflamingo is a team player at all. I think Cross Guild's dynamic is very, very precarious. I just can't imagine Doflamingo and Crocodile being in the same space. We already kind of saw at Marineford that they both, because you just look at their personality types. It's their goals and like how they like to operate and what they like to be in charge of is very, very similar. There's a reason there's so many parallels between Dressrosa and Alabasta. We're dealing with very similar types of villains, the mastermind sort of villains. The reason Cross Guild's dynamic works at the moment is because all three of them serve a different niche. Like Buggy's just got to be the face and the figurehead. Crocodile gets to call the shots and be the mastermind. Mihawk is the strongest, and I don't think anybody there questions that. But Mihawk doesn't want to exert control. So he's comfortable he's comfortable being in the passenger seat, which allows Crocodile to do his thing without some stress, you know? Radko says nothing Dofi has done that Croc didn't do. I do think that Doflamingo goes a lot further than Crocodile. I personally feel like from what we've seen, Crocodile is really, really bad, right? But if we're going by that logic, then there's almost nothing Crocodile. Crocodile's only one step removed from Robin, right? And we all forgave Robin. And we all forgave Bon Clay, right? We don't even think about them in that light anymore, you know? Robin killed God knows how many people during that drought in Alabasta or whatever. Probably deserved to be taken to Impel Down at the end of the day or whatever, you know, but we're all still rooting for Robin and the Straw Hats when they're lined up at any lobby being like, Robin, we're going to take you back to sea. She's like, I want to live. We're just like, yeah, fuck those Alabastans. Fuck them. Fuck Vivi. Fuck all those people. Let's just pretend nobody died in the drought. The Alabastans were just whining and bitching about the drought because they didn't like it, but nobody got hurt from it. All right, so let's just assume that to start with. And the Civil War only went on for about half a day. Let's assume nobody was like killed. I mean, Pell didn't die, and that was after like a fucking nuclear explosion. So it's very possible that nobody died during the war. If we assume all those things, we can forgive Robin, but then we should forgive Crocodile too, right? Crocodile, his whole thing is that he's just more malicious. You know, it's hard to get around him giving that big speech to Vivi while he's holding her over the cliff and making fun of her and shit like that. But if you really step back and look at it, Crocodile and Robin, it's like, how far removed in morality are they from one another, right? And Robin we consider a redeemable character. Doflamingo, I think, falls into somewhat of a different category because it's two things, right? Their moral character between Doflamingo and Crocodile, I think, is fundamentally different. And then I do think Doflamingo's actions, right, go further than Crocodile's to, I think, a significant degree. I might be wrong because I might be misremembering some of Alabasta. So I'll just stop that right there. But I would say that with Doflamingo, so like both the inside and the outside, right? So I think Doflamingo and Crocodile are fundamentally different in that Doflamingo genuinely does think of human lives at the same way as like Saturn and the worst celestial dragons do. He says, you guys are all ants, you guys are mortals, my blood is superior than yours. Doflamingo genuinely has no value for human life. He's basically like NL, but a more polished businessman version of NL, okay? Crocodile does have values, right? He does have some level of values. We did get to see that at Marineford, where he has some sense of like, you know, we might be pirates and I might have my personal grudges against Whitebeard and stuff like that, but I know that those guys in the world government are a bigger problem. I know that they are fundamentally the worst thing, and that the most important thing that needs to be done is to band together to stop them. We did see some level of moral values come out from Crocodile. You could say that those values don't mean jack shit when he was willing to make an entire nation suffer and go to war and everything like that for his own personal goals. But at the same time, you can see some of what Crocodile's trying to do, which is like when he repeatedly talks about creating an ideal nation, a utopia, right? That's something that he talked about. He's a very interesting character. I want to see more of him, right? Still my favorite villain in One Piece, arc villain in One Piece, right? He wants to create a utopia, right, in Alabasta. And he actually still wants to create that with Crosskill. That was their last conversation. He's talking with Mihawk about, like, we want to create our own ideal nation, right? We don't know the details of this utopia, but you can understand more and more where Crocodile's coming from, especially with his hatred of the world government. Crocodile doesn't like that the world government basically exists as this huge body, this entity that controls everything and everyone. And Crocodile's basically taking his steps to try to create his own bubble, his own nation that can stand independent from this world government. And we don't really know how Crocodile would go about ruling said nation or anything like that. He does actually seem to want to create a utopia, potentially. But with him, it seems like the ends justify the means, right? He's not one that's so much about just like this cackling sort of like, I'm just evil and human lives mean nothing and I just want power and all of that stuff like that. You can see like a level of ideology and why he feels like the world is this way and I need to do certain things to create separation from the oppression of the world, right? And you can kind of piece together that drive, and it doesn't justify anything that he does, but it's not the same as Doflamingo, because Doflamingo is very much just like God complex. I deserve anything and everything. Everybody else is beneath me. How dare other humans try and do anything to me or impose any sort of like anybody try to not be under my control or whatever. Like Doflamingo, there's a very different sense of moral values and reasoning and goals there, I think. So that's number one, but that's just the inside, right? So that's just comparing who they are inside as characters. Again, Crocodile's still bad, but he's more of a traditional, flawed human villain antagonist or whatever, where you can kind of see where he's coming from. Doflamingo's just a giant piece of shit. Like, you read Doflamingo's dialogue, and it's like, okay, there's your fucking sociopathic, God complex, zero regard for human life, no empathy, cold heart, etc., right? So those are two separate things right there. Again, Crocodile's still bad, right? Then two, in terms of what they actually do, Crocodile attempts to bring about a civil war for Alabasta. Really, really, really bad. But if it helps, he's basically looking to destabilize a nation so that he can then take over and turn it into what he wants to create, right? So you can, like, it's bad, but it's also not outside the realm of what you see villains traditionally do, like bad people do. With Crocodile, you can ascribe a bit of logic of like, okay, well, can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs, right? So it's basically like, I need to do a military coup. Let's destabilize the nation, have it kind of, have it, he needs to make it fall apart to a degree so that he can then put himself in charge of it, right? And then from there, he wants to create a utopia. Whether or not he's actually trying to create a utopia, probably not a traditional utopia, but it's not quite the same as Doflamingo, in the sense that Doflamingo, because he literally has no values of that sense, right? Doflamingo does everything from, one, slavery, right? So actual slavery, like decades of slavery in Dressrosa, right? All hidden from people. And then two, as soon as things go awry for him, he just wants to genocide the entire island. He's just like, well, I'll just kill everybody on Dressrosa so that I can keep doing my own thing, right? I think that is a step further in terms of evil, like a clear step further in terms of evil than Crocodile. It's kind of splitting hairs because it's like, well, Crocodile's pretty fucking evil, and he was gonna have that bomb go off in fucking Alabasta, right? But again, you can kind of rationalize it as basically, well, like Crocodile's plans ultimately, they're what a traditional bad guy would do if they're trying to do some greater purpose thing like that. And again, you need to break some eggs to make an omelet or whatever, right? Like, that's kind of the logic. It's like, I'm going to do some bad things, and some people are going to have to die, and it's going to be war, and that's just the way it's going to have to be in order to build this ideal nation. Whereas with Doflamingo, it's extreme entitlement. I'm God. Everyone should just treat me like God. And if people don't like it, well, first of all, I'm going to make them my slaves. And then if they don't like being my slaves, well, then I'll just murder all of them, right? I just think that in terms of levels of evil, Doflamingo is a clear step up there. So, yeah. Like, a similar way I'd put it is like, do we think Rocks would maybe do some things that Crocodile does? I think so. I think that's very possible. We know that Rocks cares about the people that he loves, like his family, Harold, so he has lines that he won't cross. But do we think Rocks might, like, do a civil war if needed? Actually, I think that's speaking too much on Rocks. We don't know that for sure. But you guys see what I'm saying? You guys see what I'm saying? Eric says Doflamingo owns the slave markets, doesn't he? Yeah, that's also true. The human auction house is owned by Doflamingo. Like, there are levels to the... Like, Doflamingo is kind of like the devil. He's kind of like the devil of the One Piece underworld. I think there are levels to it. Sexy Lich says, you're being too biased for Crocodile. I probably am painting Crocodile stuff in, like, too soft of a light. But I guess that's mainly to demonstrate why I think that even as bad as Crocodile is, I think there's a solid gap between him and Doflamingo. Again, like Doflamingo, like Eric just pointed out, and Eric, looking forward to being on the podcast tomorrow, man. Doflamingo literally, like, the slave auction, like the worst thing in One Piece that we saw in pre-time skip, like the fucking slave auction, the human slave auction, that's run by Doflamingo, right? Like, that's just a tiny example of the type of things that he does. So, whereas Crocodile, I think, falls in the mold of, like, traditionally bad, evil stuff, I think Doflamingo falls in the mold of, like, the most extreme evils that you see in One Piece, pretty much. And I also think that with Cross Guild, I feel like so far the vibe of Cross Guild is supposed to be like a bit of, like, I guess you could say Suicide Squad type vibes, right? Where it's like, hey, I guess we're the bad guys, you know? Like, where it's got bad guys who are bad guys, but they're not so bad that it's like, well, we can't have fun watching them. Or, like, we can't, like, at least root for them a little bit, right? I think Crocodile basically stretches the far end of the spectrum of Cross Guild. Buggy's probably the most harmless. Mihawk maybe somewhere in the middle, you know? They've all done bad things. But I think anybody else that they add to Cross Guild, be that a Boa Hancock or Trafalgar Law or a Weevil, I think those characters also fall in that sort of area of, like, they're bad guys, but it's like kind of Suicide Squad type bad guys. Like, we can get behind this. And then Crocodile's basically the worst of them. Doflamingo, I think, is just a totally different vibe. All right, everybody. Let's keep it going. I got really sidetracked by that question. Barry, thanks for the 2. No question, just hope everyone is having a good day. Yeah, hope you guys are having a great day. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Hope you guys are having a good Friday. Malakazar, thanks for the 6. Tinfoil hat theory. Emu looks like Vivi/ancestor of Vivi and took over her body. Oh, you're saying Lily? With some Ope no Mi shenanigans to con people into ruling Ancient Kingdom. Yeah, maybe. But then it's like, wouldn't the kings be all really fucking confused about to con people into ruling the Ancient Kingdom? But Lily was known as a different character until she went to Marijua and then never returned, right? So I don't think it was about ruling the Ancient Kingdom. And then if Emu appears as Lily to the other celestial dragons, then wouldn't they be like, hey, the Nefertari family's still alive. So then what's going on over there in Alabasta, you know? Justin Holland, thanks for the 5-man. Hoping Oda is going to be okay. I think he'll be okay. I think stuff like that just, you just need breaks sometimes. Linlin, I think the fact that we got another chapter right after that unexpected break suggests that things are probably okay overall. Linlin will see Emu and Dragon will sense them. I don't think Dragon's going to sense Emu. Because I don't think Dragon's got it like that just yet. Maybe he'll sense Emu. But at the same time, Dragon didn't even know about the existence of Emu till Sabo told him. Big Mom not knowing about Emu would be strange when all the other Yonko know about Emu. So I'm curious about that. Hopefully Oda can have her find out. Kujo will show up to ensure Shaki's safe getaway and meet Dragon. Yeah, maybe that's possible. I think that's definitely possible. Hold on. Shoot, I've fallen behind a little bit. Oh, Marwa, thanks for the 5. What Morge is saying is that none of these YouTube hate merchants, aka like those guys who are making living hating off Pokemon this last week, is saying that he's not one of those YouTube hate merchants, aka like those guys who are making living hating off Pokemon this last week. Who was hating on Pokemon? I'm not a big Pokemon person, so like I don't really know what the deal is with that. Let's get Streamlabs up to 100 real quick. I don't think I could do YouTube if I had to dedicate myself to talking negatively about things. I think the one exception would be, especially if it's like media, because then that just feels like I don't know. That just having a channel exist to talk negatively on media, I think that's just got to feel really draining because it's like a thing that doesn't even exist. It's not real. I think on the flip side, let's say you're like a political YouTuber or something and you really don't like a lot of the things that are happening in the world, in the country or whatever, then I'm sure you could normally find the passion to keep speaking video after video very critically about things, right? Because it's real stuff that you want to speak out against. But I also think I personally still couldn't do... So I understand that better, and I totally get that. But I personally think I also couldn't do that myself because I think I'd just be in such a negative headspace all the time. So, my friend is he's a news producer. He's a news producer for CBS. Okay, so his job is literally to watch lots and lots and lots of video footage from interviews, press conferences, yada yada yada. And basically he gets to make the calls for like cuts, like how things get cut up and everything like that, and what gets put on screen, what makes it to air, right? So that's his job, and like it has been really, really, really not good for his just mental these last couple years because he just has to. It's like nonstop, like 8 hours a day. You got to take in all of the things that are happening in the world, in this country, other countries, and it's mostly bad shit, It's mostly a lot of bad shit, but it's not like he can just like take a break, stop scrolling or something like that. He has to literally pour through countless hours of footage of all of this shit and be actually very in tune with it and go over it every single day and make the cuts and like make the decisions on what's happening. So like he can't avoid that. I don't think I could do something like that. I think that's really, really difficult. And that's not even him having to be critical. It's just him having to see a lot of stuff that is negatively, doesn't feel like it's not stuff that's enjoyable to go through, Fidizzo, thanks for the 5. You think we'll get more Kaido's backstory when Oda introduces the extinct Oni race? Oh, maybe. Yeah, that's actually an interesting point. I don't know if we'll get anything more than what we got, because we already got, like... we already got his little backstory in, like, 1049. And then we got to see him joining up with the Rocks Pirates, so I don't know how much more backstory right there, but maybe. From what he says to Yamato, it's possible that he got bullied as a kid because he was an Oni, but that wasn't really brought up, you know? And Uranami says his job is to doom scroll. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Tornado says News only wants to show bad shit, though. No, so the tricky thing... He's actually told me... I've gotten a lot of insights on how the news industry works through him. It's interesting. So the news doesn't only want to show whatever. It's people only want to see whatever, right? The news plays what people want to see, what gets views. And, you know, it's the same way that, like... me doing videos on like my last several videos have been about God Valley. It's not because I only want to talk about God Valley. I'd be happy to throw in like a random video on like Usopp or something in the middle here or something like, hey, how's it gonna look when we go back to Elbaf with Usopp? But the reality is that what people come into streams and what people want to talk about and everything like that is not Usopp, really, unless they're making fun of him. They want to talk about God Valley, right? So it's the same for most things. What you see isn't like, it's just what people want to see. And then the news is like, okay, people will probably want to hear about this, so we're going to put this on, right? So it's our own faults that the news is the way it is. Anyway, continuing on. L, thanks for being a Pirate King to your member for 32 months, man. Emo will make an example out of Kaido. Bro finna get one shot or smoke easily. New posters are looking cool as fuck. L, thank you very, very much for that comment. Everybody in this chat should strive to be a bit more like L. Because I know all of you are staring at those posters. You're staring at those posters like what was that kid? What was that kid? Oliver Twist stares at a bowl of soup, right? That's how you're staring at these posters. Well, you don't have to stare any longer because you too can have them for your walls. Let me show you guys. Hold on. My face is going to go away for a second. Here we go. All right. These beautiful posters that you see behind you are of all the major ships in One Piece. All the major ships in One Piece. We got everybody. You liking Rocks? You can get Rocks' ship, and the crew is on board too. As you can see, you got Whitebeard, you got Rocks, Big Mom, Kaido, and all of them on there. You like Garp? You can get Garp ship with all of the characters on there. Gold Roger, you a big Mihawk fan? Go ahead and get the Hitsugibun. Dragon fan, or maybe even a Bizarre Sabo fan. You know, get Dragon, Ivankov, Sabo. The Going Merry, which was an exclusive for the first, so the deal that's out right now is buy 2, get 2 free. So if you want to get some posters, it's a pretty fucking amazing deal. You buy 2 posters, you get another 2 free. We had an accompanying deal, which was that the first 30 people who get that deal will also get the Going Merry. That is, of course, sold out now, as I warned on a previous stream. But the other posters are all still in production. And yeah, if you like a poster, then make sure to get it. And if you like a couple posters or a few posters, then definitely just try the buy 2, get 2 free deal. And if you want the whole thing, if you want a beautiful collage on your walls, then we've got a great deal discount, a major discount deal for that as well. All right. And I will share that with you guys because I know that you guys are just obsessive over it. No World Government Celestial Dragon posters. So their ships... That's actually a very interesting idea. Oh, you know why? You know why? Because we've talked about it. So there are actually... I don't want to spoil some future things, but there are things that we're waiting on to actually get shown first in the manga before adding that to the ships collection, you know? So the God's Knights, if they get a good ship, or the Man Marked by Flames. No Shanks poster? No, there's Shanks. The Red Force is right there. The Red Force is right there. And you got Shanks, you got Ben Beckman, you got Yassop, you got Lucky Roo, you got the whole squad. The only reason Mihawk basically gets his... Where's Mihawk? Mihawk basically gets his own poster, essentially, because Mihawk's ship is just the little coffin that he rides around in, you know? So every poster is the ship and the crew, but Mihawk's ship is like the world's tiniest ship, and the crew is just himself. So it's basically just a Mihawk poster. Okay, let's get some of the sorry. Let's get some of the predictions up there. And I do agree that Emu will make an example out of Kaido. Because shoot, I hope this video that we've got ready for you guys is able to go up tomorrow. I hope it's able to go up tomorrow. As long as the sponsor approves it, because it does address some of my predictions of what happens next in the fight, and I do agree with you. Here, let me add this shit in. Here we go. All right. I think this should be right. Hello? Oh, god damn it. Oh, shoot. You know what? Okay, hold on. This is incorrect. There we go. All right. Yeah, that should be good. All right, that should be good. I got this twice, actually. Let me get rid of this shit. All right. Okay, there we go. There we go. All right, so we're all good there. And, yeah, let me pull up Whimsical. 1 second. Let me pull up Whimsical. All right. OJ, thanks for the 2. Garling Scars Whitebeard also have a new sticker proposal. This Monday, I think right now, if you check, all 3-year members, if you check right now, you should now have the Pirate King badge. So we did update the badges. And this Monday, we'll do a vote on emotes. A vote on some new emotes, because we haven't added emotes in a while. What's your new sticker proposal, Ajay? What does stickers mean? What do you mean? What does stickers mean? What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Oh, shit. All right, here we go. All right. Hold on a second here. I don't want to do this. I guess I'll just move this shit over here. That should be good. Okay. So we got... Here we go. Yeah, we had a shit ton of predictions for 1161. Oh, these are 1163 predictions. My mistake. 1163. All right. And then clean slate. There we go. All right. And then, yeah, that should be good. Okay. There we go. I like that. And our first prediction was, of course, from L, and I believe it was that Kaido gets taken out. Let's see. Man, my setup right now. Hold on. Yeah, okay, I like this. All right, this is better. Okay. Emu will make an example out of Kaido. Bro finna get one shot or smoked easily. Okay. Yeah, I'm on board with that. I think that makes sense. Oh, fuck. I moved this. I hope that didn't fuck up the camera. The camera's so finicky. Now it's fine. Okay. Kaido gets taken out easily. That's from L. And then Ajay said... Oh, god damn it. Hold on. There we go. All right. Don't look at the script that's in the works. Ajay, thanks to the 2. Garling Scars Whitebeard. Also have a new sticker proposal. Garling scarring Whitebeard, I do believe that's very possible. Again, I hope the video that I want to get out tomorrow is able to be put out tomorrow. Garling Scars Whitebeard. All right. Canoe and Worgen, thanks to the 2. You have to be pretty evil to create the buggy balls. Yeah, the buggy balls. Listen, all of those guys kind of suck. And we don't know how many people Buggy's killed in the past. We don't know. He's probably killed a good amount of people. Raven Hill, thanks to the 10. What got you into One Piece and want to do YouTube videos on it? That's a great question. Thank you for that question. I appreciate that question. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 because we're almost there. What got me into One Piece? I've told the story several times before. But, the shortened version of it, and sometimes it can lead me down a very elaborate rabbit hole. The shortened version of it is I saw One Piece, I believe, for the first time when I was in 3rd grade because it was coming on TV, and it was the 4Kids dub. And I literally, so I can tell you right now, the first One Piece episode that I ever saw, was the one where Zoro arrives to free Luffy from Buggy's cage, and then like Zoro fends off Buggy and everything like that, but then it turns out that Buggy's got his ability and everything, and then Zoro flips the cannon around and fires it at Buggy. When I was a kid, I thought that was the coolest shit ever. I thought that was fucking awesome because the thing that I always explain is there was just a gigantic difference between anime versus Cartoon Network shows that we're watching at the time. Because whenever you watch a Cartoon Network show at the time, like cool stuff that I liked at the time, Teen Titans, right? Like maybe Danny Phantom or American Dragon Jake Long or like Ben 10 or whatever, right? Cool stuff like that. It always follows like a 20-minute episode structure where, you know, the characters are doing their thing, then some new problem pops up, they spend the show dealing with the problem, and then in like the last 2 minutes of the show or something like that, it's finally time to fight the bad guys. So the heroes fight the bad guys, it's resolved in a few minutes or whatever, they win the fight, and then, you know, episode ends and we move on, right? Anime was so fucking different because anime, the thing that is so strikingly distinct from American animation is the pacing of it, in that they can start the episode with a problem, like, oh no, Luffy's stuck in a cage, and then you go 20 minutes, and Luffy's still fucking stuck in that cage. But over the course of that 20 minutes, so many things have happened, right? Like, somebody showed up. Okay, is it now time to free Luffy? No, Zoro's fighting this guy. This guy's, oh no, he's got supernatural powers. It didn't work. Zoro lost. Okay, but now they've got a new backup plan, and now they're gonna try and turn this cannon around to fight Buggy, like, to flip things, right? It's just the fact that everything is so stretched, and so you're just, like, sitting on the edge of your seat, because as a kid, what you're conditioned to at this point in time, if you're watching Western cartoons, is, like, the bad guys will be defeated by the end of the episode, right? And worst case scenario, maybe it's like a 2-parter episode. Maybe the conflict continues on to the next thing. But with anime, it's like, no, you can be in a fight, and like Luffy versus, like, the Strats versus the Black Cat Pirates, and then that goes for episodes and episodes and episodes and episodes, and it's just like back and forth, and there's so much like tension, like for kid standards, right? There's so much tension, you're waiting, it goes against everything that you're conditioned to, because the problem is not being resolved easily. The problem is usually supposed to be resolved by the end of the episode. In anime, it's not resolved easily, so you're just really hooked. It feels very addictive. Like, when I watched my first One Piece episode, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Keep in mind, I'd already seen ads for One Piece. The commercials for One Piece beforehand, when it started airing, were terrible. Did a terrible job of selling it to us viewers, like us kid viewers, because it just seems like you don't even know what to make of it. It seems like a silly, like, why is this kid stretching and stuff like that? It seems so goofy and random. There's no appeal to it whatsoever. But then when I saw the first episode that I saw of it, I was just like, this is really cool. And then I'd managed to catch One Piece in bits and pieces over time, as it aired. So, like, I remember getting to watch bits and pieces of the also call it luck, I don't know, or maybe they're just smart about which episodes they're airing on repeat or something like that. But every single time I caught One Piece, it was always in the middle of some big fight part. So the Black Cat Pirates were the next thing that I got to see, and it was like Luffy versus Kuro, and that was mind-blowing. Like, it was taking, like, Kuro just seemed so unbeatable because he was so fast, and I was like, how the fuck is Luffy gonna be able to beat this guy, right? I also didn't know at this point in time, because it's easy to miss if you're only watching One Piece in bits and pieces. But I also didn't realize at this point in time that Luffy has super strength. I thought he just has stretching, because he doesn't really land a hit on Kuro much. So I was just like, how's the stretchy guy gonna land a hit on Kuro? And then later on, I saw Don Krieg, and the Don Krieg, like I was just dropped in the middle of the Don Krieg fight, and that was so cool because that one really left an impression, because it's just the scenes of like Luffy trying to break the spear. As a kid, it's just like 10 minutes straight of like our hero punching the spear, getting blown up over and over, and it's not making any progress. And I'm just like, how the fuck does he beat this guy with a spear that explodes? Like, it just did not feel like a doable like the tension is just so riveting. So I really, really enjoyed that. Keep in mind, it's not like One Piece was the first anime I'd seen, because I'd seen Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball in the past. But there was something about One Piece being more like when I would see Dragon Ball Z and like bits of it in the past, it was almost too crazy and spectacular. I liked it. I liked what I was seeing, but it almost felt like too hardcore. It was just like, oh my God, like this feels really adult or something like that, and like really like intense. Whereas with One Piece, I think the fact that everything was more grounded and more more familiar to me, like more similar to, other shows that I'd watch at this point in time, like Teen Titans or maybe Avatar or something like that, right? Everything felt more grounded. Everything, like characters aren't like flying through the sky, shooting blasts and everything like that at each other. I think there was some level of the simplicity of it that really stuck with me. And so I was hooked, and like just some of the charm of it. And it was a bit funnier and all of that, I found. So One Piece stuck with me in a way that Dragon Ball Z, while I enjoyed Dragon Ball Z, when I would see it, I was never a huge fan like a lot of other kids were. Anyway, so I loved One Piece for those reasons, right? Then at some point it stopped airing, or I was no longer able to catch the showtime. And then several years later, I think once I was in 6th grade, that was when I first, I'd get home from school early, and now I had access to the family's computer. So then I was like, okay, I want to watch shows. And for some reason or the other, I was like, oh, I kind of want to see what happened with that show. I used to like One Piece. And then I started my binging journey of One Piece. So 6th grade is when I caught up all the way to the One Piece anime over the course of that year. And that was to the middle of the Enies Lobby arc. Okay, so that's how I got into One Piece. Now, yeah, that's the short version. What got me into One Piece, doing YouTube for One Piece? So, in college, I knew that in college I wanted to start a YouTube channel for movies. In college, I'd watch a shit ton of movies. My goal was still to eventually be able to make my own independent movies, okay, independent films. I was always a big movie guy, right? So in college, I wanted to make a YouTube channel about movies, right? Provide film analysis, stuff like that, right? This was something that I kind of did, like kind of had plans for, but never really committed to doing during college. I was always just like, I'll do it tomorrow. I did kind of make my way into that by like, at least I started doing some freelance writing for like film articles for certain sites. Famously, I don't know why I said famously, but I guess with OG viewers, you might remember that I've spoken in the past that I used to, one of the things I did freelance writing for was Watch Mojo. So there are a couple Watch Mojo videos out there in existence right now that were scripted by me. So, because they just hire freelance writers to do that sort of thing. It's not a consistent writer. So I would do freelance writing for movies and stuff, for different movie sites, like pretty much anything that I could get that would accept me, because I just wanted to get more experience, right? And my plan was basically I get some experience doing that, and then I'll start a YouTube channel for that. And I'd hoped to start that by the end of college, but I was just slow with it. However, over the course of, I think, like, late junior year and especially senior year of college, like, I was always a big One Piece fan, but for some reason I just kept getting more and more into it. I think I was just really, really loving the series at that point. I think this must have been in the midst of, like, Zou. It was all post-Dressrosa, so it was, like, Zou through, like, the first half of Whole Cake Island or something like that. or Whole Cake Island had begun, let's say, through the beginning of Whole Cake Island, I was just like finding myself really, really loving One Piece and like wanting to go back and reread. I was also starting to smoke pretty frequently, like a very unhealthy amount. I would not recommend becoming like a regular smoker. But in college, especially by senior year, I would probably get high like 5 out of 7 days a week. Okay, like most days a week, I would at some point be high. Okay, not good. But my favorite high activity was going back to my room, pulling out the colored version of the One Piece manga and just rereading it and like rereading it, like rereading my favorite arcs and everything like that. And I was just like, man, I love this so much. And that like over the course of the year, that really like I would just start taking notes on like why I loved certain things about One Piece and like thoughts I had and stuff like that. And eventually by the end of that year, I was just like, I still wanted to do my YouTube channel, but I had shifted from being like, oh, I want to do it on movies in general to like, I want to do my YouTube. Like I've taken so many notes down about like the things that I love about One Piece and my little observations, etc. I was just like, I want to put this into video format. I want to do this. I didn't even know that there was a One Piece YouTube scene until I started putting out my own videos, and then I started exploring a little bit to see what other people were doing. That's partly why I didn't even have a concept early on of like what my videos should be like. I had so many questions in my head. I was like, should I make my videos like long, like 10 minutes or something, or should they be short? Should I be in front of the camera, or should it be not me in front of the camera? What's going to be harder to do? I had so many questions in my head of how to do it. So like the first several videos I did were I landed like really short form videos without my face. I didn't even put on like thumbnails. I would just post like an image of like a manga panel as the thumbnail early on. Now those thumbnails have been replaced with like real thumbnails. But early on, I had no concept of any of that. I just wanted to get my thoughts out. And then over time, I began to like realize what other people were doing. I was like, okay, let me make my videos longer. Let me start doing actual thumbnails. Yeah, but basically, the long story short is I want to do a YouTube channel for movies, film analysis, over the course of like my final year and a half of college. That shifted to me being like, oh, no, I feel the most passionate about One Piece. I love the series so much. I want to do the channel on that. And so it shifted into that. Anyway, thanks for the question. Let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. Pina, thanks for the 2. Harold appears. Also, hey, Morgy. Thanks. Harold appears. I think if Harold's coming, I think it'll be a little bit later. Ender Ayanami, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 37 months, man. Thank you for the long time support, man. I really, really appreciate it, of course. Okay, so you're sending me a link. Don't want to go back to plot armor hat heroes with Goofy, King of Cringe, Simp J, Goonme, Bumslop, Snorbin, and Irrelevant Trio. Thoughts on growing sentiment that Oda is a Flashback merchant. Okay, let me open up this link that you sent me. Loda is a Flashback merchant. Here, let me share this with you guys. But the flashback ends and we get back to the present day. No, stay with me. Rocks Pirates, me, Sebek, don't leave me. Look, okay. I believe that Oda's got some great stuff set up for us in Elbaf because I was genuinely already really enjoying Elbaf, if you guys remember, before the flashbacks started. Flashbacks are naturally like a really, like, I think that's always been Oda's guaranteed good part of his writing. Like, whenever we get a flashback, it's almost always going to be at least pretty good, if not great, right? Even some flashbacks that I think are a little bit... I think exceptions are flashbacks that are, like, really short and half-assed. Like, let's say Kaido's flashback. But we're talking about flashbacks where Oda spends multiple chapters, right? So, I don't think Oda really misses on flashbacks because... You know why? Here is why I think Oda is always really, really good at flashbacks. Because I think in flashbacks, Oda forces himself to focus on just his strengths. Because when you're in a normal arc, right? Let's say we're reading through fucking Wano or something, right? Oda's, in my opinion, Oda's weaknesses are his, in a sense, his boundless creativity. In that, if Oda wants to include some like random side characters or a random bunch of extra nonsense that doesn't mean anything, or like extra plot points that he thinks will be fun, like this fucking Ice Oni shit, or what if there's a Kazembo that's going down to blow up bombs, but it doesn't matter, or what if Apu and X Drake are gonna make an alliance, and then like what happens over the course of the arc is he realizes he doesn't have time for all of those things, or he's including a shit ton of side characters that don't really have a bigger purpose, right? I think those are Oda's bigger weaknesses, storytelling-wise, which is trying to do too much, right? With flashbacks, like, if we were to say what are Oda's biggest strengths, it's usually, like, tight, focused character writing that hits, like, strong emotional beats, significant world building, right, and lore stuff, and hype, right? Also creating a strong sense of tragedy when he needs to invoke it, things like that, right? In flashbacks, Oda is essentially forced to cut out all of his weakest writing elements, which are his tendency, particularly post-time skip, to include a shit ton of fluff and nonsense side characters and side plots that actually he doesn't have time to finish or anything like that, right? With flashbacks, Oda knows, he usually probably has an idea, I want the flashback to go like 10 chapters or something, so he is forced to basically like distill everything down to the bare bones essentials. You look through the Rock's flashback, it is genuinely like such perfectly tight storytelling. Every single character in this flashback has had like a mini like it feels like they've all gotten the perfect amount of focus for what level of relevance they need to have in the story. You look at like Rock's Herald, I think that's like Herald's story's gotten just as much focus as Herald needs. The Rock's Herald dynamic got just enough focus that it needs for us to actually give a shit about it, right? You look at the Rock's dynamics, like the inner dynamics of Rock's crew, we got to see just enough of that we get to understand why things carry certain meaning when, like, Whitebeard, despite shitting on Rock's for this whole flashback, actually steps up to be by his side at the end of it. You see Kaido's little arc about him, like, obsessing over devil fruits and him, like, wanting Big Mom to get him a devil fruit and everything and where that all leads to, right? You see Roger's storyline and the Roger Pirates and everything like that, but now you get to see where things might turn and he might become more serious. With Garp, you see Garp's evolution potentially happening before our eyes. Dragon, such tight, well done storytelling for Dragon, writing the perfect little introduction, origin scenes for him, right? Everything is really, really tight. The flow of this whole flashback has been brilliant. Yeah, I think with flashbacks, Oda can sometimes also have to rush things a little bit. Like, if we go back to the Oden flashback, I think Oda could have spent a bit more time. Definitely he needed more time with the scabbards and actually stuff in Wano, right? But he's at least avoiding the parts where, like, he just fluffs things out with too much random bullshit that doesn't really matter. So I think flashbacks, Oda really can knock it out of the park, because with flashbacks, Oda generally knows the key character things that he wants to do that are really strong, the key moments that will evoke a lot of emotion or excitement, and he kind of condenses the storyline to just those things. And I think that's what makes him such a master at flashbacks, because it's like he's forced to work in a space that plays to his greatest strengths. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of funny if you think about it. Anyway. Continuing on. That's my perspective. But I think Elbaf has been strong. I think Elbaf has been strong outside of that. I think Elbaf has been really strong. I think the God Valley the Rocks flashback has been amazing, but I thought Elbaf was already a really, really good arc and shaping up to be my favorite post-time skip arc potentially before we got to this flashback. In fact, time out, I just want to give a little bit of a reminder for perspective. Who remembers this? When this flashback began, a lot of people were not that hyped for it. Because when this flashback began, the story of Elbaf was already in full swing. Because an insanely exciting thing had just happened in that Emu had just shown up to Elbaf. That was fucking mind-blowing. I remember, again, as a content creator, I can remember when, like, viewership and excitement really spikes. When Emu descended on Elbaf, and the next few chapters, everyone was losing their fucking minds. Everyone was so excited for what's going to happen next. Okay, Luffy and them are going to go upstairs to fight Emu. Everyone was fucking like losing their head. Everybody was so excited. And then Loki was like, wait, let me tell you about what happened like however long ago. And then everything screeched to a halt, and it was like, oh man, we're getting the Herald flashback now? Because at that point in time, we didn't know this was going to be a Rocks and God Valley flashback. At that point in time, we thought that Loki's just going to explain like his sad backstory with him and Herald, right? Because that was the thing that Loki pitched it to us as. He's like, let me explain what happened at the castle 14 years ago or whatever. I remember that people weren't like super upset, but people were like, oh man, we really want to get to this. But okay, Oda had to do this flashback at some point. It'll probably be a good flashback. I guess we'll just get it out of the way now, right? So people were kind of like, okay, we'll do the flashback and then we'll get to the fight, right? Then Oda fucking threw us for a loop because the flashback slowly turned into something way bigger than we initially imagined, because it became, okay, it's not just about Herald, it's not just about Loki, although keep in mind, people were liking the Herald and Loki parts, right? Once it got going, people were like, oh, Loki actually really tragic figure, his birth story is really fucking sad, yada yada, right? But the thing that made people really lose their minds is like, oh my god, we're getting Rocks? And then slowly it was like, wait, we're getting like Rocks' full story. And then it was slowly like, wait, we're getting the fucking God Valley incident here, right? And then now it's like, okay, not only are we getting the God Valley incident, the God Valley incident is actually way more fucking insane than we ever thought, because Emu was at the God Valley incident too, right? So I just want to remind people that just because at this moment in time it's like, oh, if we go back to Elbaf now it'll be boring, I just want to remind people that everyone was saying the opposite when the flashback initially began. When the flashback initially began, we were all really fucking excited for what's going to happen next in Elbaf, and we felt like the flashback was pumping the brakes on it, right? So I think Oda is pretty consistently aware of how to play with readers' expectations and how to top what we initially thought is going to be the most exciting thing in the narrative next, you know? Anyway, continuing on. Just wanted to provide some perspective. Sai Sridhar, thanks for the 5. Rocks gets reversied but resists it, Johnny English / Nutty Professor style, by mutilating himself. I don't even know what that means. Hold on. Talks about Joy Boy, who could also be Davy Jones. Okay, interesting prediction. All right, hold on. Rocks gets reversied, resists it by mutilating himself. Talks about Joy Boy, who could also be Davy Jones. Interesting. And that's from, is it Sai? Hold on. Sai Sridhar. Okay. Jade FW, thanks for being a Pirate King to your member for 35 months, man. Prediction, a minor Rocks pirate like Gonzui or Barbell are taken out by Emu or Garling as a hype tool. I think it's going to be Kaido, but sure, let's say a minor. So if it's Kaido, I'm not going to count it for you. Just heads up. Elijah Petty, thanks for the 5, man. Back in Wano, everyone rode the hype while labeling Mr. Morge community a sect for calling it was what it was, a disappointment. In the end, we were right. Well, I think we were right about it being bad, but we were wrong about it, the raid failing. So you win some, you lose some. Rihanna Zara, thanks for the 5. Claiming this one before anyone else can, but this will be the chapter that we finally see Emu's face. Oh, that's a good one to claim. Hold on. We finally see Emu's face. I'm surprised. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Henchme976, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 6 months, man. Hope you're enjoying it. Morge, if growing arms with Ashura is a sword art, are we revisiting this, Henchme? All right. Is a sword art, then is growing arms with Oniguma's fruit a sword art too? How many arms would both lead to combined? Okay, let's say this. I don't think the growing the arms is a sword art, but I think, like, just growing, if Zora grew the arms and then just punched with them, then it's not a sword art, right? But he grew the arms, then he used them for sword fighting. So I'm saying the sword fighting part is the sword art. So that's my thought process, right? I don't think there's anything crazy about that. How many arms would both lead to combined? So does Onigumo have 8 arms plus his 2? Does he have 10? Or does he have 6 and then 2? 8. And how many arms does Zoro? Zoro has 6 arms, right? Yeah, 6 plus 8, so it's 14. Unless Onigumo's got 10, right? So then it's what, 16, right? Drink water. Peggy's leg. Thanks for the 5. 1163 prediction. Dragon with Shanks runs into Garling after he's almost fully healed, but got away somehow while Garling tries to attack. Dragon with Shanks runs into Garling after he's almost fully healed. Oh, shit. Dragon. I do want a Dragon Garling interaction because I think that might be a matchup later on. Dragon runs into Garling, but manages to get away somehow when Garling tries to attack. Colin Parker, thanks for the 5, man. Rock's Dami Reversi seems too obvious, but I'm going to say it'll actually be Roger and Garp that get hit with it instead. Yeah, and I think Rock's getting Dami Reversi is already taken. Roger and Garp get Dami Reversi'd. All right. And then Bob, the Joe Bob, thanks for the 5. Prediction, Garling and some other Gods Knights get a power boost via Dami Reversi from Emu. Oh, shit. So, you know what's interesting? Oda had a quote that said, because I know we're all shitting on Garling, but Oda had a quote that was literally like, Garling is strong. It was in some interview. He's like, Garling is strong. There's a reason for his strength that you will find out. So it's like, what is he talking about there? Garling and some other Gods Knights get a power boost via Dami Reversi from Emu. I mean, they're going to need it. Oh, also, let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick, because we're almost there. 150. Julian Reed, thanks for the 2. Garp doesn't fight, focuses on saving civilians. Ah, man, I'd be disappointed, but I guess it's fair. It is important. Garp doesn't fight, focuses on saving civilians. Eric, thanks for the 2. Roger's the only one that uses Joy Boy like hockey. Yeah, I can see that, man. I would love for that to happen. I would love for that to happen, especially because it's implied that Shanks can do the same thing. So it's like, okay, well, let's see Roger do it too then, right? Stephen Guy, thanks to the 2. Emu and Saturn summon the Gorosei. I would fucking love for that to happen. That gives some more interesting matchups, in my opinion. Because the Gods Knights so far, it just haven't been it, you know? I expect Garling to be back up and kicking just because of regeneration, but yeah. Emu/Saturn summon the Gorosei. Joseph eBay, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for a year now. Hey Morge, my prediction is Roger gets a Hockey Bloom fighting on behalf of Rocks. Also shout out to my Houston Rockets this year. I also think Roger will get a Hockey Bloom. So again, I hope the video that is planned to come out tomorrow is allowed to come out tomorrow. It just depends on sponsor approval. But that is something that I talk about there as well. Shout outs to my Houston Rockets this year. I'm just bummed about the NBA in general. I just feel like the future of it sucks. We have to watch the fucking Thunder, Rockets. The future doesn't suck. It's just, I guess I'm just salty because the teams that I care about. Hopefully the Nuggets do well. I think the Nuggets have a good shot at doing well. The thing about the Rockets is I wonder if the Rockets win this year. I think that would be big for Kevin Durant's legacy for sure. That would change things quite a bit. Yeah, I think that would change a lot. So I don't mind the Rockets winning this year. I think that would open up Kevin Durant, Steph Curry all-time debates again. Especially because it just depends on how Kevin Durant does it, you know? I kind of don't want Kevin Durant to win another ring is the thing. But at the same time, I feel like the pendulum has swung so far over that people are almost underrating him now. Yeah, I don't want to get in NBA talk too much, but yeah. Okay. Strawhead Dom, thanks for the 5. Because of his Davy lineage, Rox knows about the One Piece and will create the initial spark to find it before he dies. Thoughts? Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to put that down as a prediction. I don't know if that's even your prediction. I think that could very much be true. I would love if Rox basically leaves Roger with a sort of will to follow, and then that drives Roger on his own quest, obviously, to uncover the Poneglyph quest and everything like that. Because Roger already found out about it from Lodestar. He's already been there, but he hasn't been actively pursuing the quest just yet. Oh, whoops. All right. The hell? All right. Roger gets... What the fuck? What did I do here? Why is this working differently? Okay. Roger... Oh, is it because... Okay. A Hockey Bloom fighting on behalf of Rox. Rox knows about the One Piece and creates the initial spark to find it before he dies. I think that's a really good idea. Oops. L, thanks to the 2. Morge was higher than Long Ring, Longland giraffes. Okay. I want to share something with you guys. Because nobody commented on it last stream. This is kind of bad. And I'm going to try and never do this again, literally. So, last stream, did anybody notice something different about me? Tio Treviso says Morge KD has only won 2 rings. Well, I'm just saying in context. You can say that, but the debates will reopen if Kevin Durant wins a 3rd ring and a 3rd Finals MVP. Because then, if that's the case, Kevin Durant 3 rings, 3 Finals MVPs. Steph Curry 4 rings, 1 Finals MVP. That's going to be a thing. Then you add in lots of other factors. Kevin Durant, more scoring titles, I believe. Yeah, the scoring titles he has. Steph Curry has 2 MVPs, so that's really big, right? But then Kevin Durant has his scoring titles. He's the greatest Olympics player of all time for the U.S. I think Kevin Durant has a lot more All-Stars and All-NBA appearances than Steph Curry. It would here's how I know it'll open up the discussion, because what I've noticed is that lots of times, like, people say that, oh, if this or that happens, it won't change this, it won't really change anything or whatever. But then a lot of times after said thing occurs, then it just totally changes people's perspective. So for example, I remember before Steph Curry won his 4th ring and his Finals MVP, a lot of people were still just like, no, he's way off from, like, top 10 conversations. But then after he actually won that ring and the Finals MVP, then just people, based on the way that he did it and how they saw him do it, and it just helped recontextualize the rest of his career. Then, and after that, a lot of people became much more vocal, saying that Steph Curry really was the engine behind the previous Warriors rings and everything like that, and that he should have won. Like, it just changes so much of the conversation that, like, after he won that, it rocketed Curry up to now lots of people have him in their top 10s all time, and a lot of people have him in their top 5s. And you hear some players say he's like, some players, depending on what they value, they're like, Steph Curry, top 3 all time, right? Like, it just changed the narrative around him so much. I imagine similar things with Kevin Durant. Same thing with LeBron, where, like, a lot of people being like, even if LeBron, like, He won those two in Miami, but even if he goes back and wins in Cleveland, it doesn't change how we view him. But then after he won in Cleveland in 2016, it did change dramatically how people viewed him. You know, like, I don't like judging how we're supposed to view an accomplishment before it happens, because just the thing I've noticed consistently with basketball discourse is that there's a difference between us being like, well, hypothetically, if Kevin Durant wins this, then his resume would still only just look like this, so we would still discount him. There's a difference between the hypothetical of if the player achieves it versus after you actually watch them achieve it. Usually after actually watching a player achieve something, it changes perspectives a lot because you get more context, and it does help recontextualize things from the past. So I don't want to go into that. The other reason I know that this would open up more Kevin Durant, Steph Curry debates is because before Curry won his fourth ring and his Finals MVP, there was already the debate, Kevin Durant or Steph Curry higher all time, and I think a lot of people leaned Kevin Durant higher all time. Like, on most lists and things like that, you would see that. But then after Curry won that fourth ring and Finals MVP, then people put him clearly ahead of Kevin Durant, rightfully so. But that means that if Kevin Durant wins another ring and Finals MVP, then it should make it a debate again, right? Just logically, that's most likely what's going to happen. Anyway. Yeah, I don't think KD is doing that. So I don't think it's a discussion worth having. But the Rockets, on paper, can do it, right? Maybe third in the West? I don't know. It's hard to say. Tiger Cub says, KD just joined a 50-win team. The 22 championship was on another level compared to what Kevin would hypothetically be doing this year. Hey, I agree. I'm just saying that, like, a lot of context will be lost over time. That's the reality. Like, in 10 years, for example, in 10 years and 20 years, when you have lots of people who didn't even watch these finals, right? How many people are going to be going through and parsing through the exact nuances of, like, okay, when Steph Curry won in 22, this was his exact roster, yada, yada, etc. And when Kevin Durant won, this was what the team did the year before, yada, yada. Like, it's gonna, like, here's the reality. I don't know the exact details of, like, fucking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's, like, what was his team's exact stats or roster or all of that shit or record when he won his first, like, championships, when he won his first MVP and stuff like that. Over time, when we compare basketball players, usually what it boils down to over time is just straight up resumes. X number of X number of rings, X number of final MVPs, X number of MVPs, X number of All-Stars, X number of All-NBA, right? That's literally what it turns into, right? Like, right now in the moment, there'll be more nuance to the discussion, but I'm saying, like, it doesn't really matter. In, like, 10, 15, 20 years, people aren't going to know. People won't have watched this era necessarily. Yeah, that's just the way it is. So, you know, like, when I compare Larry Bird to Steph Curry or something like that, I legitimately, like, I've gone and watched some Larry Bird stuff. Like, I've watched, like, actual game footage and everything, but I can't rattle off the exact context of each of his championships. Really what I'm doing is I'm comparing, like, well, this is what it looks like on paper. He won 2 Finals MVPs, 3 championships, 3 MVPs or whatever. Steph Curry won this. Whose looks better, right? That's usually what basketball discourse over time turns into. So it's kind of... I do think that KD going to the Warriors is such a legendarily huge anomaly, like shameful anomaly that won't be forgotten for a long period of time. But I do think the further and further that time moves on, people are just going to know about it less and less, or not understand the context of why that was bad as much. Because you already see it with LeBron and the Miami Heat, you know? That's already a thing. Like, at the time, people were just like, none of this counts, blah, 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 blah. And then as time goes on, it's like, LeBron, 4 rings and, 4 Finals MVPs, and that's, like, basically what's going to show up on his resume, you know? Anyway, continuing on. Oh, the thing I was talking about last stream. Okay, who knows? Okay, so last stream, did I seem different to you guys? Last stream, I did something that I do not normally do. All right? And I will never do this again, okay? last stream, I foolishly took an I had taken an edible much earlier in the day because I'd had a very long weekend. I finally had some break time to myself or whatever. I have there's video work and stuff that happens in the morning, but then finally there was a window of rest of about 5 hours for me in Monday before my second shift starts. Second shift essentially being I do stream, I review the video that's going up the next day, I record sponsor, I record Patreon, right? So like my days on Mondays are basically I've got a lot of stuff in the morning, then I get a break in the middle of the day. Usually I use that to do errands and stuff. And then I have my second shift in the evening, which is about 4 hours where I'm streaming, doing Patreon, sponsor, reviewing the video for tomorrow, stuff like that, okay? So I had my little break in the middle of the day, okay? And then this time I didn't have errands to do really. Or I did, but they were like really, they were short ones that I thought I could squeeze in, okay? So I had, we had guests over this weekend. One of those guests had brought edibles, okay? We had one half a gummy left from the weekend. So I was just like, I'm just going to relax for these 5 hours. I got nothing to do. I want to take a nice big nap. And so I took the gummy and I was just like, and it's half a gummy, okay? 10 milligrams. The half gummy is 10 milligrams. I took the gummy just because I wanted to relax finally and sleep a little bit and just like feel like just enjoy some level of laziness before then the second half of the day kicked off, the evening, right? Mondays I also usually end up sleeping late just because after stream there's so many other tasks I got to do, right? So I was like, this is my chance to relax. Let me use it. So I took the gummy and it did not wear off by stream time. It was a bad idea. That was a really, really, really bad idea. I wasn't like high during the stream, but instead it was Instead it was more like, how do I say this? It was just like I was still very drowsy and groggy and everything was slow. So it was no longer even like an enjoyable part of being high. It was like took the gummy, watched some shows, took a nice long nap. I woke up and then I'm still feeling out of it. And so walked the dogs, did some errands and everything like that. And then I'm like, oh fuck, I got to start stream, and I'm just like speaking really slow. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I was just not my usual self on that stream. Yeah, it was King AP07 says I knew something was off. JK, I didn't know. Okay, so I hit it well because I think I just oh, Kingling Demi-Human says that's why we just dropped the stream topic. No, we dropped the stream topic because there wasn't that much to talk about. That's the honest truth. Because literally at the start of stream, I was like, partway through the stream, I did like a little poll. I was like, okay, how many of you guys even think that Eris is like a bad guy or something, or there's some twist? And I think over 90% of people said no. So I was like, well, then what's the point of even discussing this, you know? I think people were saying you seemed sleepy. Okay, I mean, I guess that's good. So I think I played that off well, but that was genuinely me trying to put in as much energy as possible, basically. So, and I never want to do that again. I never ever want to do that again. I would not be able to stream if I was like actually high. I was in the hangover phase of being high. So that was a really bad idea. Just the fact that it was an edible too was really fucking stupid because you don't have that much control over when it stops. It just seemed like, in the morning, it just seemed like such a good idea. Also, the one time I've been live high, like actually high, was actually way back when I did the Wano report with O'Hara. So like years and years back, like years, this must have been like 2020, 2021 or something, okay? And that was the first time I tried to do a stream high. It was a podcast with him, live. And I thought it'd be a fun idea, okay? And so I smoked right before the stream, and I told O'Hara and everything, and we thought it'd be really funny. And then we started the stream, and it was just overwhelming because I was so out of it. And then you're seeing chat, and like literally hundreds of people are messaging and everything like that. And then suddenly, like my brain's just like having a hard time processing, having a hard time keeping up with what O'Hara's saying. And then I'm seeing chat and everything like that too, and I'm just like, I'm pretty sure we did that one live because Wano Reports normally we record it as a podcast, I believe, but I think we did that one live just for fun. And I think, unless I'm misremembering, but I remember feeling overwhelmed. So I do think that that's one that we did live, if I'm not mistaken. I think that that is one that we did live. And I was just like, I can't do this. I literally told him like a few minutes in, because at first I was like, oh, it'll be fun. But then after a little bit, I was like, oh my God, what if I say some really dumb shit? Or like, what if I'm just like I sound really stupid or something? Like, I was like, I don't think I can communicate right now. So I just told him I can't do this. I literally can't do this. We have to stop. And so then we stopped it there. I just told him I can't do this. Yeah. And then ever since then, I was like, never again, never going to be high live on stream. That's not a good idea. And in general, I just smoke a lot less now, period. And when I do, it's normally Delta 8. But that's why when we had those gummies, it just felt so attractive. I was just like, okay, I haven't gotten any time to relax this weekend. I got this 5-hour window on Monday. Let me just enjoy myself. Let me have half a gummy and I'll be fine by stream time. And then I wasn't. Anyway, all right. Continuing on. Meek, thanks for the 20, man. Holy shit, thank you, man. Hey, Morge, hope you're doing well. This morning I had to put down my dog of 16 years, and it's rough. I definitely feel that, man. My dog also, I shared this on stream, but my dog was 16 when we had to put him down, and he just reached a state where he was blind, deaf. It was just not good. He was my best friend. Your stream has been helping me get my mind off things, so thank you. I'm happy I can help, man. I know that when we had to put down Paco, that would have been, I want to say, 3 years. It was in 2023. Yeah, so a little more than 2 years ago now. Yeah, that was really, really, really difficult. Was it 2023, 2022? No, it was 2023. Yeah. That was really difficult. I cried a lot. And the one thing I'll always remember is that, like, putting your dog down at the vet is not as peaceful as I guess I was led to believe, because it is just a whole. They give him 2 shots. The first one completely relaxes their body, which is uncomfortable to watch because the dog completely collapses. Their tongue rolls out. At least Paco's did. So I didn't like seeing him like that, and I was like, oh my God, like this is happening, and he doesn't seem comfortable like this, and I don't think he wants to be like this. And then the second shot, like, you can literally, like, there's a final breath that comes out of their body, and it just feels so, I don't know, I was crying a lot that day. Like, I was, like, bawling, and then we exited the room, and then I asked to go back into the room just by myself, and then I went to his body, and I was just, like scream crying, basically. It was really, really bad. So I'm sorry, man. I know what that feels like. 16 years is a long time for a dog to be able to live. So you know that you did give them a good life if they were able to get that far. But I'm sorry, man. I feel bad just remembering what that was like for me. So yeah, I hope the stream can help get your mind off things a little bit. Yeah. Growth Stonks, thanks for 2. Dragon puts Shanks in the chest, Roger found him in. Oh, that's an old classic prediction. That'll keep being a good prediction until it actually happens, you know? Dragon puts Shanks in the chest, Roger found him in. Rihanazar, thanks for the 5. How do you think this flashback relates to Loki telling it in universe? Is he telling all of this to Luffy? How would he know? No, I think in general, I think this is standard for most One Piece flashbacks. Like, most One Piece flashbacks, not most, but a lot of One Piece flashbacks that are a character telling you about what happened to other characters. Like, even going back to, like, Nojiko telling the Strats about Nami's story, it does tend to hit scenes that the narrator of said flashback couldn't possibly have been aware of, you know? So Oda kind of blends things with the flashbacks. Like, part of it is in story, it's what a narrator is explaining to other characters, but Oda's also using it as an opportunity to show readers things that he wants to get across in general, you know? Like, I think even with the Scabbards flashback, for example, I think there were things in the Scabbards flashback, particularly during Roger's travels with Odin, that Odin's travels with Roger, that we're getting to see that the Scabbards, who are actually having the flashback, couldn't have possibly known the details of. Obviously, there's Odin's notebook and everything, but I'm saying in general, Oda's just using the flashback as an opportunity to give us a general understanding of what happened there, you know? Mahavid Sadegi, thanks for the 2. Garp attacks Emu. That would be so fucking crazy, but I hope it happens. I think it'll happen in some context somehow. He was just getting... I'm imagining Emu just getting... you guys should... I hope the video that I want to put out tomorrow is able to come out tomorrow, okay? Because so much of what you guys are talking about is in that. But I just think it's so fucking funny to think about, like, Garp just punching the fuck out of Emu with, like, a galaxy impact or something, and Emu's just like, oh, fuck, like... damn, if this guy wasn't such a damn good Marine, I'd have to fire him for this shit. Like... like, Emu just takes the hit, and he's like, Garp, I ought to fire you for that one. But you just do such a good job. You're the best we got. If only the admirals weren't such bums, we'd have to fire your ass for punching me. Oh, man. Anyway. That's it, Garp. That's strike 2. Punch me 4 more times and we're stripping you of Vice Admiral status. Let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. All right. Fatingo, thanks a lot for the 5. Which do you think is more likely? Wit remaking the entire story, or only doing until pre-time skip and then Toei remastering all post-time skip like Fishman Island? I think Wit remaking the entire story, because it's like, why not, right? Like, you get fresh viewership, fresh money from that, right? Assuming it's a successful series. If nobody fucking watches the remake, then it doesn't work. But, like, it's a great way to re-milk, you know, the story, right? I think it'll also just be too jarringly different of an experience if, like, a lot of people are getting into one... Like, imagine a new viewer's experience, right? Never seen One Piece before. They get into it... Because the idea of the Wit remake is to bring more viewers into One Piece, right? An easily accessible route. So, if you're a new viewer, you watch all of Wit pre-time skip, and then it's like, okay, now to keep going on this journey, and I go to post-time skip, and it's all different voice actors, totally different style, animation style is different. Even with Toei's remake, the pacing is going to feel different. The fucking music is probably good. It's like watching a whole different show, you know? I think that would feel very jarring. Justin Holland, thanks for the 5. Oh, you forgot my predictions? Oh, shit. Let me put those up. I'm sorry, man. Could Luffy make temporary arms/appendages with his fruit, full mastery and power? 3, Dragon finds his fruit. Let's see. Dragon finds his fruit. Let me add that in, Justin Holland. Dragon finds his fruit. And I'll get your other predictions in a second. Could Luffy make temporary arms/ I feel like that looks so bizarre. I feel like it'll look creepy. But maybe. Linlin will see Emu and Dragon will sense them. Okay, let me get these in. I'm going to try and limit number predictions per person just because then it just saves... you know, more space for other people. But, yeah, let's see. Linlin sees Emu. Dragon senses Emu. Who just show up and meet Dragon. All right. Hold on. Catching up here. Okay. Pasty Cash, thanks for being a Pirate King to your member for 3 months, man. Roger, Zebek, and Garp attacks Emu with a combined attack, and Emu is not hurt. Man, tomorrow's video. I hope you guys can watch tomorrow's video. You guys will understand what, like, this is, I think, I know there's lots of videos where I'm like, man, wait for next Tuesday's video. This is probably, like, the most extreme example I can think of, like, a lot of stream comments being directly tied to the video that is about to come out. I hope it can come out tomorrow. Roger, Zebek, Garp attack Emu with combined attack, but Emu is not hurt. Pass Dcash. Drink water, Peggy's leg. Thanks for the 2. 1163. Gabon tortures Sobbers. Gabon tortures Sobbers. You would deserve it. Marco Saint. Thanks a lot, man. I already predicted Garp would punch Celestial Dragon, and that Garp will have some involvement in hunting games being stopped. My next prediction is that Roger and Garp will have a discussion about One Piece and our upcoming Final War. I would love to see that. Roger and Garp will have a discussion about One Piece and / or upcoming Final War. Mo, thanks for the 2. Prediction. Shiki tries to steal Shaki from Rayleigh. Oh, shit. I would love to see that. Shiki tries to steal Shaki from Rayleigh. I want to see Rayleigh and Gabon still get in on the action. I'm worried that they'll just be headed to the ship and they don't get to participate in the fight anymore. Monkey D. Dragon with the classic ... Very in character. Grizzly Adams, thanks for the 5. Our old vet was mobile, so we were able to do all of that at home and hold them in their favorite places in the house. Put 2 dogs down that way. I like that a lot. So one thing that, because I had advocated that we ask for a home visit to put Paco down, but then one of my family members had read something like, don't do it at home because that's supposed to be like it could feel traumatic for the dog if that's happening in their home or something like that. But then I think about it in retrospect, and I was like, if I could do it again, I think home would be a lot better, because it's like, if it's traumatic, like, they're not going to be here anymore, so why would it matter? Like, wouldn't it be more traumatic if it happens in a strange place, right? Like even if doing it in-house, like at your home, would feel traumatic to them in the sense that, like, their safe space is being invaded, it's like, but they're not going to be here anymore, so it's not like this is leaving some sort of lasting psychological damage. Wouldn't you just want to do it in the place that ultimately feels the most comfortable for them overall? So I think if that ever has to happen again, it would be better to do that in home, I think. So put 2 dogs down that way. Yeah, that sounds like the better way to do it. Grizzly Adams. Tio Treviso, thanks to the 2. Emu switches bodies from Saturn to Gunko. Oh, shit. That's interesting. That's a very interesting prediction. Hold on. You know what? I'm going to make everything smaller to make some space. What the hell? Okay. Here we go. Emu switches bodies from Saturn to Gunko. Derek Boppler, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 10 months, man. Prediction, giant combo attack against Emu. Biggest we have seen in the story, and Emu is completely unfazed. Unfortunately, Derek Boppler, we already have a prediction like that, which is Roger, Zebek, and Garp. And if you're making a prediction someone has already made, then it needs to be a substantial addition. So if you want to say something else, then please get it out there. I'll just watch out for your comment. But yeah. iSun, thanks for the 2. Roger Pirates found devil fruit, none eaten one. Interesting. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. That's very interesting. Maybe they like swimming too much. I did make the argument in, I think, 2 streams ago, why it does actually make sense that pirates would refrain from eating devil fruits because of the fear of, like, you know, a naval battle. Because, again, pirates spend most of their lives at sea. And just because in the context of One Piece, Oda has structured it so that all of Luffy's significant fights happen at land, I suspect Oda did that because Luffy would be very handicapped in a fight at sea, right? But realistically, you would expect that a lot of these fights would happen on the ocean, right? So I mean, even just look at Roger and Garp, right? The fight that they had that we saw in this flashback was a fight at sea, right? So Roger wouldn't do so well against Garp if Roger also had to deal with the potential ramifications of being knocked off the ship even once, you know? And Ranami says, Morge is fighting for his life so as not to add a single late point. I've really been fighting hard not to add any late points. I've really been, like, I've really, really been locked in, and it's very difficult for me. I really, like, it's just in my nature, I think, to not be on time to things. So what my girlfriend's told me is that I have time blindness, in that I'm very bad at estimating how long certain things will take me. And that is true. And that's why even once I introduced the late point system, I was repeatedly late many, many times, even though I was trying to do better. I was legitimately, like, really trying to lock in and do better, but I still was late over and over again till it got to, like, we're at 149 points or something now. I was trying to do better, and we still got to that point because, and then, like, as I got more and more points, then I slowly learned through repeated failures. I was like, okay, these are the specific things that are making me late. Okay, I can't overestimate this. I need to be really, like, okay, I think I have time to go get to go get water or something, but I don't. I think I have time to take out the trash or something, but I don't. So that's actually going to take me this much time. Like, so it took a lot of trial and error over, like, months and months before I was able to get it to a point where I can actually be on time, and it's still really hard. I cut it fucking close every single time. Continuing on. Chris, thanks for the 5. Flashback in Flashback. Emu remembers Joy Boy and Davy while looking at Roger and Zebek. Ooh, that would be cool. That's a really good prediction. Emu remembers Joy Boy and Davy when looking at Roger and Zebek. That's a really good prediction. Whoops. Aether, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 31 months, man. Prediction, we find out what caused the split on God Valley's mountain, plus what makes the island itself special. Oh, I kind of just assumed that the split was just part of its design, but yeah, maybe it is something special. Tao, thanks for the 10. Prediction, Rox runs into Kuma and asks him to send his family away with the paw paw fruit. Oh, that's a fucking good ass. I love that prediction. I love that prediction. That's a great prediction, man. Love that prediction. Love that prediction, man. Let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick, because we're almost there. Dobby Greg says, should give 10 points for taking an edible. I was really fucking close to missing it that day. Like, that was a really tight one. I thought I was going to miss it that day. Dare Boppler's new prediction. The darkness fruit is accidentally created by rocks. Fruits can be created by enough haki and will. That's a cool prediction, man. I like that. That's a really interesting prediction. That's an awesome prediction, honestly. Grizzly Adams, thanks for the 5, man. If Blackbeard gets Pluton and Frankie builds one, could that be the setting for the Straw Hat and Blackbeard showdown? If Blackbeard gets Pluton and Frankie builds one, could that be the setting for the Straw Hat and Blackbeard showdown? Ship-to-ship combat 1v1s happening on either massive ship. So I don't... I do think that we will see the Straw Hats versus the Blackbeard Pirates Plutons, because that's pretty strongly foreshadowed in Water 7 and East Lobby that the whole idea is that the blueprints to another Pluton were created specifically because if the original Pluton is unearthed, then you need to be able to create another Pluton to fight against it, right? So we assume that that will need to happen. I assume that's why Frankie will decide to make another Pluton, because he will see that they'll get news that the Blackbeard Pirates have it. JWP, thanks for coming through, man. Holy shit. JWP with the 10 gifted memberships. God damn, man. Thank you for coming through. Everybody in chat, big shout outs to JWP. Everyone in chat say thanks to JWP. Always coming through with the big gifted memberships batches. Yeah, everyone say thanks to JWP. W's in chat for JWP. If you've got new emotes, then definitely use them for JWP. Really, really appreciate it, man. Thank you as usual. What I was saying with the Frankie situation is that I imagine that obviously the Strats are friends with the country of Wano. I imagine the Strat, Blackbeard Pirates, will raid Wano to get Pluton. I imagine the Strats will hear about this, and, it's their friends and everything, so that alerts them to the significant level of destruction that Pluton likely does, and, they're made very aware of the threat that Pluton poses. And I think that would prompt Frankie to be like, okay, it's time for me to take up this responsibility and build a counter Pluton, because that's the only way we're going to be able to stop Blackbeard before he does more evil shit to our friends, right? So, across the world, right? So I do think we'll see Pluton versus Pluton in some aspect, but I don't think that the entire battle between the Strahd Pirates versus Blackbeard Pirates can take place on the ships themselves. It's possible that Frankie, whoever his opponent is on the Blackbeard Pirates, Frankie's final fight involves him, piloting Pluton or something like that. But I personally feel like the Strahds versus Blackbeard Pirates, it'll have to happen on Laugh-Tale itself, because I think the scale of their fight is just going to be too big to take place on a ship, Chris, thanks for the 10. Emu being the world and waters rising being a likely metaphor for global warming, while Ancient Kingdom had extreme technology. Just a thought. Emu is the personified will of the world / ocean created by that tech. That's an interesting idea. I don't know about that. I don't know. Because Oda does care about environmental stuff to some degree. That was a point of his in Wano that look, as part of Yasuo's speech even, all the industrialization of Wano has destroyed the natural beauty, etc., etc. But I don't know if, that's one of Oda's overarching themes, that's what Emu would necessarily represent. But that is an interesting thought. Okay, I'm going to have to wrap stream in the next few minutes. Just a heads up. A little bit earlier than usual, but that's because I got some stuff for the end of the day, unfortunately, today. So I'll answer a few more questions here. And just as a reminder, we do have our beautiful posters, our beautiful ships collections in the back. And as a reminder, again, every ship has the crewmates of the ship. So your favorite characters, the Strahd Pirates, the Red-Haired Pirates, etc., all on the ship as well. So click the link above if you want to check out the ships and just browse and see basically the little details that go into every crew. You want to check out Dragon's ship and the Revolutionaries. You want to check out the Polar Tang. You can look into the submarine. And Law and Beppo are there in the window. Just check out the ships. There's a lot of detail that goes into each of them. And all of your favorite crews are basically represented on those ships. And if you like the ships, then we've got some really, really good deals. You can buy 2 ships and get another 2 ships for free. Carnage, thanks for the 5, man. We learned that the Yami Yami no Mi was Davy Jones's fruit and is a mythical Zoan. Rox will try to eat it so that he can carry out Davy Jones's will. Ooh, I like that. We learn Yami Yami no Mi was Davy Jones's fruit. And, was the Davy... Okay. I'm just going to say was Davy... Is it... Okay, I'll just say was Davy Jones's fruit and is a mythical Zoan. Rox will eat it to try to carry out Davy Jones's will. Emu being the personified will of the ocean could explain the rising water, why he lives on Marijua, and why Devil Fruit users have their will depleted in water. That's a really good point. Yeah, that is a really good point. It does make sense. I don't know if it's supposed to be a metaphor for global warming and everything, but that is an interesting idea. JWP, thanks for the 20, man. Thank you so much, seriously, for all the support. And everybody in chat is obviously thankful as well. You've been saying that Roger will have a hockey bloom. I think it's interesting that God Valley was initially framed to us with Roger as the protagonist, but even Rayleigh has seen more shine now. Any guess on what Roger will do in the end? I do think that Roger will have a hockey bloom, and I think that, like as you said, we've gone through a bit of a full circle with this with God Valley, with first it being like in chapter 957, at first it's we kind of get the sense that this was like Roger's big time to shine, because like even the image Sengoku showed was like really Roger versus Rox, and talking about how Roger and like Rox was Roger's first and greatest foe and everything like that. So we get the idea that this was Roger's time to shine. Then the whole flashback begins, and it's way more Rox focused. Rox feels like the protagonist, and if anything, really feels like the secondary protagonist on the Roger Pirate side, right? And now we're getting to, and a lot of readers were complaining that Roger doesn't feel like the Roger that we know and love, and he's kind of just this goofy side character in this whole storyline that hasn't really done anything impressive or really carried that same gravitas or anything like that, and he doesn't have that much of a role in all this. But you know who's very similar in that regard? The protagonist of One Piece. How often in One Piece do story arcs basically begin with Luffy being this sort of goofy, oddball side character who's really not even supposed to be on the island in the first place? Like, look through most One Piece story arcs, right? Like pretty much any island Luffy shows up at, right? There's already other characters that have a much more personal conflict and drama that's going on. And they've got a much more personal conflict with the villain and everything. And then Luffy and the crew basically show up for their own random side reasons. Like, hey, we're looking for a doctor. Hey, we need someone to fix our ship. Like, hey, we're just stopping here while we wait for the log post to redirect, right? Like, hey, we just wanted to check out Fishman Island. You know, like, that's the usual Luffy thing. Like, hey, we're just here to fucking tour Skypiea or whatever and find some gold, right? And then Luffy gets involved in the conflict. And then by the end of that story arc, Luffy is the one who steps forward as the hero. We see Luffy become more emotionally invested in what's going on. And then we see that side of Luffy come out that is that, you know, that force of nature that ultimately faces the villain, right? I think that's a similar thing with what's going to happen with Roger here. I think that God Valley is very important to Roger's story. I do think that Roger's going to get a hockey bloom. I am not sure the exact context of that, but based on some things that Kaido said, it does sound like Roger might get a big hockey bloom here, with Kaido talking about how Roger's hockey transcended all. I think that with Garp talking about how Roger turned into a demon when his crew was threatened, maybe some of Roger's loved ones might come under fire from Emu or something. Maybe Rayleigh and Gaban go back to try and back up Roger, and then one of them's in trouble, and Roger has to protect his crew. There's a lot of ways that it could play out, but I do maintain hope that the Roger that we see at the end of God Valley will be the Roger that, like, we have respected for so long as this great Pirate King character, while still giving Rox his time to shine, of course, and Garp his time to shine, and so on. Dare Bopler, thanks for the 2. Emu will comment on Roger's straw hat. Oh, yeah, maybe. That's a really good guess. Emu will comment on Roger's straw hat. And I am going to have to make this the last thing I respond to. Shizzer2, thanks for the 5-man. If it counts, Emu rage baits Rox into a trap to Dami reverse him. Roger sees something's off and tries to prevent Rox from getting baited, but fails. No, I think that's a very specific. That's a very specific prediction. I'm definitely counting that. Yeah, that falls under point number 2. You know, Emu rage baits Rox into a trap to Dami reverse him. Roger sees something's off and tries to prevent Rox from getting baited, but fails. And you know what's interesting about what you just said? Is that maybe that's what the line of dialogue was from chapter 1096, with Roger saying, wait, Rox, or like stop or whatever, and Rox saying, don't try to stop me, Roger. Maybe that explains that. That would be a really phenomenal call if you got that one right. All right, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in to this one. This was a lot of fun. I'm very excited to see next chapter, like really fucking excited. There's a video that should come out tomorrow. As long as our sponsor approves that it's good to go or whatever. Otherwise, it might have to wait till Monday. But there's a video that should come out tomorrow, and then we will have a video on Tuesday as usual. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Watch out for tomorrow's video. Hoping it comes out because it does address a lot of things that people talk about over the course of this stream. So with that, thank you all for tuning in, and I'll talk to you later.